Today, we're talking hypnosis, and we are doing this with Dr. Natasha, who is a wellness leader, speaker, and integrative doctor, redefining healing beyond perfectionism and hustle culture. We are constantly on the go, and we are living so much in a stress response that we are often losing that connection between our mind and body. One of the ways that she helps people reclaim this power and change the trajectory of their life is through hypnosis. Now, I am no stranger to hypnosis, and it is something that I have started practicing recently, and it really has been truly amazing for me. So I wanted to bring her on and dive into what exactly is it? Is it really this idea that you're going to be mind controlled by somebody, or is this something within your control? And how does this help you really become your true, authentic self? So it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Natasha. Well, hi, Dr. Natasha.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh, I love meeting other naturopaths. We have never met before, so this is so exciting for me.
Yeah.
I love to learn more and more about people, so I'm way excited for this. Where are you? Where are you from?
I'm in Oregon. I'm in
Oh,
Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
okay, yeah. I grew up in Seattle area, so very
Oh,
familiar
okay.
with the
So you're
Northwest.
familiar with the gray days.
Yeah, but not anymore because I'm now in Phoenix and it
Okay.
is beautiful outside, and I will take that
Yes.
over the gloomy every day. Although I get a little nostalgic sometime when it gets cloudy and rainy, but after about 24 hours, my mood starts to go, "Ooh," and
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
feel this.
okay, it's good. I got out of there. Right.
Global warming, though, you can see it's actually pretty nice today. And
That's
yeah.
good. I love it. So I am really excited to start talking to you because you work in perfectionism just like I do, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
work in coaching people to essentially find their best selves and their authentic selves, which I love. I love more than anything. So, can we just start because I want to dive into a very specific part of what you do today. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but I would love to know, like in general, you didn't start in this type of work, right?
No, I mean, I've jumped around so much in my healthcare journey. I thought I was going to do cardiopulmonary medicine.
Oh,
I was just driven to get that residency. I was going to go back to Canada. So many things have foiled. So
yeah.
many things I thought were going to happen, and life has other plans. And I didn't even really realize how much was driving me with regard to perfectionism. And,
Yeah.
part of the conversation we'll have today is it is not something I am free of. Like on a daily basis, I am tethered to it. I was talking to friends the other day. They're in town from North Carolina, they're colleagues as well. And we were talking about the Enneagram.
Mhm.
And I don't know much about it. And it's like, oh, what number am I? And they're just like, one. You're a one. And that's like, I guess, perfectionism. I tried to explain it to my partner who didn't know much about it. I started describing one. They're like, that's yours. I'm like, oh, God, is it that obvious?
I
So
yeah.
I am actively in the dismantling of it,
Yeah.
but it's a spiral. It's like it teaches me again and again. I'm constantly tethered to it because I think it is a human experience.
Mhm.
I think it's a natural default. I don't think it's something, I think it's just a learning opportunity, but it is something we're tethered to.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think it's an important point that this is a process. I think health in general is a process. So many people
Yes.
think, well, I'm going to go see the doctor and they're going to give me a few supplements to take and a few labs and I'm going to be cured and it's going to be all fine and I'm going to live the rest of my life and never have to worry about again. And, health is a journey and it's a growth journey. And that's what's so freaking cool about it is that you figure out, you do a step, you figure it out, you get good at that, and then you ask yourself, what can I do next? Now, there's a little bit of perfectionism in that, right? Because we're wanting to achieve the next goal.
Yes.
So, can we talk a little bit about being goal oriented versus being perfectionist and obsessive about it?
Yeah. I think it's really a matter of where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think with perfectionism, it's that survival strategy.
Mm-hmm.
When we're operating from that way, it is it is coming from a notion of not enoughness, of
Mm-hmm.
insufficiency that's really driving it, or at least that's have
Mm-hmm.
been my experience when I slow it down. It's like, how did I get tethered? Oh, I'm operating from this false belief,
Mm-hmm.
whether mine or the influence of society or the enmeshment with both, whatever. But that's driving it. This notion that I am insufficient and I need
Mhm.
to prove and that I need to gain, versus when I'm working toward my soul mission, right? Or I'm doing that work and I'm moving toward a goal because it's coming from a values aligned place. It's
Yeah.
coming from this deep place within, and I am taking one step over another in the direction of my values. That's like so much more fulfilling.
Mhm.
That, right? But it looks the same way, and I might even achieve the same goal on the piece of
Mhm.
paper,
Mhm.
but it came from a different place. And I might weave in between those two back and forth, right? Toward the
It's
goal, like perfection loops me, I come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a lot that we determine what our goals are based on what other people expect. And I think it does come down to, do we expect that for ourselves? Is that something that we truly want? Or is it something that we think we want because we've learned from other people to tell us this is how you're successful? What's the definition of success? You know, we watch our parents, we watch the people around us, they're modeling this behavior for us. And we're like, oh, well, when you're really busy, you're successful. You know, I had that myth that the more stuff I could do, the more productive I was, the more successful I was. Now, I didn't stop and ever ask myself, am I actually ever getting anything truly done? Because you can write a to do list, and you moms out there got this one, right? You write this to do list and you're checking it off, but then you feel like nothing, like you walk around the corner and the house is still messy. You're like, did I even do anything? You know, and so when you can become more focused with your time and your to-do lists come more strategically, you're actually more successful when you're not as busy because you have that time to dream that up, right? You're in more of a calm parasympathetic state. But we're taught otherwise. We're taught, no, go, 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 go. Push that cortisol, push yourself to your limit, stay up late. I mean, I look at med school alone. Like, it's a miracle that we're even still here. Like,
I know.
I was like, oh my God, I was up all night studying, and I was waking up and I was doing these long shifts and I was learning all this stuff and I was being pushed and I was trying to get A's and I was trying to do this and I was studying for my boards and then I was doing this or that. And I think we're conditioned to do that. And I wonder, I don't know if you have insight on this. I'm sure we're born into certain patterns, like certain neurological workups when we're born, and some children are more driven than others. But I do think there's a lot of environmental impact here. Were you raised in an environment that was very driven?
Yeah, I come from an immigrant family, right? I was
Mhm.
born in the UK and grew up in Canada. And my
Okay.
family, my parents were born in Africa, in East Africa.
Hmm.
We originate from India. And
Hmm.
with our particular culture, we basically didn't have a sense of land belonging. We were kicked out of one place after another, right? Trying to create home. So for me, very early on, there were a couple of really strong messages. And one of them was, um, you're a woman,
Hmm.
so you're going to need to work 2 to 10 times as hard. And then you are also of color. You
Hmm.
cannot get this wrong. You represent
Hmm.
all of us. And then I'm firstborn. So it's just like so much pressure of
Hmm.
needing to get it right. And so I definitely, the family is like very integrity aligned, like that's very important, very values
Yeah.
aligned. But it was still coming from a place of like, don't get it wrong. Like, right, that
Mhm.
part about dysregulation was part of it. And I think that's another piece. If we go back
Yeah.
to like, what's the difference? Are
Yeah.
you regulated toward the goal when you're operating with it? And if you're not regulated, that's how you can discern, right? Oh, I'm in the perfectionism thing because I'm doing survival. I'm not regulated.
Hmm.
Versus when I'm regulated going toward a goal, that's something else. But yeah, I definitely grew up in a household that it was very much about needing to get it right, be the good girl. It was, why did you get a B? Like any of that was just like, yeah, very challenging conversations at the dinner table going
Hmm.
through the grades if it was less than the top. And if I ever said it was hard, it was like, what's hard? How is it hard? You make it
Yeah.
hard. So it's just like not a lot of room for that. And they were doing the best they could. What they were doing is just trying to help me get through this
Yeah.
Western world and have me be successful and be okay. And that's
Yes.
it came from safety, them wanting safety for me.
Yeah, and I think every parents are good intentioned with that. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think, I'm a parent and I catch myself saying things and I'm like, now I'm kind of, as I've gone through my own personal growth and realized how much those things that were said to me impacted me, now I'm catching myself saying, "Oh, that might be a little pressure." And I think sometimes do people do think when I say ditch the perfectionism, they think I mean ditch the goals, ditch the drive, ditch the self-propelling forward. But that's not it. It comes down to what you said initially. It comes down to self-worth. It comes down to, am I good enough? I'm not good enough. Changing those words, I had a mentor say to me once, instead of saying, am I good enough? Say, I am good enough. Can I do this? I can do this, right? And using certain words and then modeling that for future generations, because as we know, our world is just getting more and more stimulated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going away. People say, oh, I'll do this when the stress is over. The stress isn't ending. We know that. There's always going to be something. So we have to change, I think, from the inside. We have to change the way that we interpret these external cues. We have to use our senses to not see everything as a bear, to
Mm-hmm.
not have everything create a subconscious trauma response, right? From us being told that maybe we were women,
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't do it, or we had to work harder,
Mm-hmm.
or because our skin is colored, we're not allowed to do this or that, or, all these things that we're given that we pick up in little pieces throughout our lives. We have to shift that. One of the things that I want to talk about with you, and I would love to deep dive into, is something that I just recently started. And I've meditated for a few years now. I've gotten better and better at it. I'm still not great at it, but I've learned how to put myself into a parasympathetic state. And I've done a lot of the work towards changing my language. I get to versus I have to, letting go of control of things, or really asking myself, does it really matter if there's a cup in the sink? Like, is it really that big of a deal? And as I get older, looking at myself and trying to have love for the changes going on in my body versus having hate for it, little things like that. But I think, as we talked about earlier, health is growth, right? And it's a journey. So more recently, I started doing hypnosis, which has been freaking cool.
Yeah, right.
Like I really do. I think it's been so cool. And I thought we have this image. So I want you to talk about this because we have this image that you're going to be, up on a stage. Someone's going to hypnosis you and you're going
Totally.
to do something stupid and you're going to look like an idiot. And for a perfectionist or somebody that cares a lot about what other people think, they're petrified of hypnosis because they don't want someone else to control their mind. And it is so far from that. So, can we talk about hypnosis? Like, give the nuts and bolts, the 101. What is hypnosis and why should we consider doing it? And then we can dive into some even more cool stuff about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing is that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis.
Hmm.
That's the most important part, that you are allowing that state to occur. We're constantly in and out of a form of hypnosis. If you really get into a show and you're super immersed with the character, that is a type of hypnosis, right? Like you are enmeshed in the show. You feel like the characters, you're feeling for the characters, right? That's
Yeah.
very similar to the experience in hypnosis. Or when you get into a book, I would get into books and I just feel like it was another world and I was totally in it.
Yeah.
Those types of things are forms or give you the texture of what it's like to be in a hypnotic state. It's just a state of deep relaxation. And you had mentioned I'm not good at it as far as mindfulness practice, or right. And I grew up in a culture where that's just like foundational, right? I grew up in a culture where prayer and meditation and
Yeah.
was just what we did. And so there's no right or wrong way to do mindfulness. And I think that's also the perception that hypnosis, I've got to, sometimes clients would say, I think I did it wrong. It's like, no, like, there's no way to get it wrong. Are you able to allow yourself more and more to experience a deep sense of relaxation? And in that moment, can you suspend
Mhm.
the part of your mind that wants to correct everything, right? And critique it. Can you suspend that for a moment? Just like when you're reading a book or you're
Yep.
watching a show, like an action show, and you're not sitting there at most of the time and being like, that's sometimes you are, but like, that's unreasonable. Why did they do?
Yeah.
If it's a
You're not
show you're really
analyzing it.
invested in, you're like suspending that belief for a moment and you're just
Yeah.
enjoying the experience. And that is what I feel like when we're doing hypnosis, it's really about that. It's just like getting into
Mhm.
a deep, relaxed state, gifting yourself that opportunity to go within and explore. Whether that's exploring a past part of you,
Mhm.
right? I do a hypnosis around finding your peak moments in a way to find your values,
Yeah.
right? To go to a peak moment where you experience bliss and awe. And it is like based on Maslow's theory and some of the inspirations from the Blackfoot community used with is
Mhm.
just like this blissful awe moment is where you feel that oneness. And when you feel that oneness, you're closer to figuring out what your values are, what your
Yeah.
real place of alignment is. And so sometimes we've been taught what our values are, as you mentioned. We've been taught what
Yeah.
our goals should be. When you go into this deep regressive state, you go to this like these precious moments that are your own and you find that awe, you can connect back to like, this is the value that means something to me. This is when I feel full and blissful and oneness. And so I've used hypnosis in that way to suspend what you've been taught, to
Yeah.
reconnect to what is really what gets you into alignment, and then getting that information and using it as you move forward to then be your touchstones as you move through your day or, finding a sense of fulfillment as you move forward in your goals.
It was interesting because while you were talking, I wrote down values, lines blurred, because we do get these ideas of what our values are. And I was going to ask you, as taking people through hypnosis, do you find that a lot of people, especially high achieving people, think they're one thing, but when they get in there, they realize that that doesn't align. And that lack of alignment, it's what's preventing them from becoming as successful as they can be because they're listening to what their conscious mind says. This is my value. This is what I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a straight A student. I'm supposed to get this done. But their value is more maybe heart centered. Maybe it's about, no, what drives me is joy or, the feeling of empathy or whatever it is that they connect with. Because emotion is how we change things. It's not just thinking, oh, I'm going to be better. I'm going to make $1 million. And, a lot of people say just repetitive thought. You can't just sit there and say, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to make $1 million. You have to feel what it feels like to make $1 million. Well, how do you know if you've never made $1 million?
Yeah.
Right. So that's when I say to people, have you thought about hypnosis? Because what if we get you into this state and we bring you to a place? And I don't do it. I get hypnosis, I don't practice it. But what if we could get you to a state where you remember another time where you felt really good, right? And then you connect that together so that the emotions connect with the thought, right? And that's how you see change. So do you see people like completely change their money, change their success in their business by bringing in hypnosis?
Oh, absolutely. I've had some incredible experiences with hypnosis. And if you had asked me at the beginning of my career that this is what I would be doing, I'd be like, you got the wrong person. I'm sorry. I don't know who you're talking about. I mean, it took me so long to finally choose to incorporate it into my practice, though I had been doing it for myself for,
Yeah.
since I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me so long because of perfection. I didn't want my colleagues to
Mm.
think because of these perceptions around what hypnosis is and that I'd
Yeah.
be all of it. It just stopped me. But anyway, doing hypnosis, there's some individuals where I had done one hypnosis and we placed them into regression. It was about what was in the way of their financial goals. We went to it's very actually very moving. We went to a past regression where they saw their ancestors and they saw their ancestors uh, chained and tethered. And
Huh.
it was a imagery of slavery. And it was and so when I'm doing I'm guiding them to go, but I'm holding space for whatever they see, right?
Yeah.
And whatever's unfolding. So they had still felt this connection, like they were still tethered. Some emotional, some part of them still felt chained, tethered, unable to be free. And in this deep regression, they set their ancestors free, and their ancestors turned to them and said, like, you need to untether from this.
Yeah.
And that was a very moving experience. Again, not what you learn when you're doing hypnosis. Like, there's no protocol for this at
No.
all, right? Certainly, all unfolds as it unfolds. But that individual just, it started to shift their relationship with money. It started
Yeah.
to shift their relationship with life. And it allowed them to then connect even more to their ancestors being with them as they moved toward their goals. They felt the support of their ancestral team as they move forward, that they're going to help me get resource. I've helped set them free. They're setting me free. We're moving forward. And so every step in the direction of their career felt like they were no longer alone. And there's interesting studies around what that perception, right? That psychosocial piece of when you perceive a hill and
Yeah.
you see it on your own versus when you're with someone you've got belonging with, you perceive the hill as less steep and more
Mhm.
easier to climb. Whether that psychosocial support is somebody real in your life,
Mhm.
or in this case, for the individual to feel an ancestral team sense of belonging that felt like
Yeah.
they were not alone, all of a sudden achieving goal and moving forward was easier.
I think that's so cool. And what I was thinking about was the word belonging, right? Because
Yeah.
when we get very hyper focused on things and we try to control everything in our life, we feel very alone
Yeah.
because we feel like, it's like I just think of little examples. Like I come downstairs and I trip over my kid's shoes. I'm like, oh, I couldn't even put them away. Now I have to put them away. Like it's like now I have to do this all by myself. Oh, and there's a dish in the sink. Now I have to do that. Oh, did anyone make the doctor's appointment? Well, now I have to do that, right? And it becomes this controlling thing. And we start to feel very alone. And I think a lot of women, particularly midlife, start to really go through this. I think I've seen in my patient my patients that are, but in the 40s, it's like there's this tipping point of who was I versus who do I want to be? Do I still want to put up with all this stress and type of thing? And they feel very alone, even though they're not alone. And when you were talking about regressing this person back to ancestry or to their ancestral, I want to talk about that a little bit because I have lost. In my family, I mean, I've had a lot of grief. I don't have my parents. I don't have my grandparents. I lost them they were very young when they passed. And there's been many moments throughout my life that I've felt very alone. And I've gone to, say, a medium, or I've gone and done things to try to find my crew again because I feel like their energy's still here, but they're not here. And I didn't know how to resolve that. And that grief was causing a lot of problems when it came to relationship with money, when it came to relationship with my husband, when it came to relationship with my job and my mission and my kids.
Mhm.
And which is understandable because you get into a survival, mode. So, on a spiritual level, so what you're saying is when someone goes into hypnosis, because the ones I've had so far, it's only been things that happen in my reality within my
Mhm.
life that I've regressed back to.
Mhm.
But I've been told by other people I've seen in the past that there's things further back that are from ancestors of mine. So what is that spiritual component? Help people understand that. Like that's just cool. To me,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
because I miss my family. And if there's still some tether, but maybe not a tether that's negative or impacting me negatively, but a tether that I can utilize that lifts me up and brings me joy and connection and belonging, that's a positive thing. How can people use hypnosis for that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. The thing is, I didn't go in with the agenda, neither did that
Mhm.
individual when I regressed them back. The way that I phrase it to keep it open is a slight shift of the way that I was taught, but that you are regressing back to a time, a place, a space, and or a metaphor,
Mhm.
all to do with where the root of blank first occurred. So the root of scarcity first occurred.
Mhm.
And so they'll go anywhere. So sometimes they'll go first, the first scene, they may go to what they remember as a teenager
Mhm.
or an experience they had at childhood. All right. And then the next scene, they may go to, and I'll ask, like, are you in the body that you know? What
Hmm.
gender are you? Where
Oh,
are you?
okay.
What do you see in the scene? What are you experiencing? Now, some people get very attached to that's got to be. I'm not a dogmatic person. So for me, it's like whether it is or is, it did happen, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just it could be a metaphor. There's a part of you, and the story is providing you with information
Yeah.
about what belief you return to internally again and again. What are you
Yeah.
tethered to? And understanding that belief, that survival protective mechanism, and giving it a new job, a
Yeah.
new contract, that allows you to more easily move forward. So, like, it's just about understanding what are you
Mhm.
going to gain from wherever you went. And so, if the person wants to connect, they can connect. But I wouldn't say, I think that's where we get stuck in perfectionism or having it look a certain way or wanting to
Yeah.
get it right. Just allow yourself to go wherever. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Explore where the root of something first occurred and find that in your somatic system. Find that in
Mhm.
the story that lives within your mind or within your body and within your nervous system. Be with that, hold space for that in a neutral way, suspending belief for a moment, all the
Yeah.
criticism, just holding it. And then from that, when you come back to full consciousness and integrate that,
Mhm.
it will lead you with greater ease toward, like, you'll have those aha moments,
Yeah.
and
It's
those are just like
it's
so
so
fun.
cool because when I first went into hypnosis, I think I did pretty well. I got into the alpha state for sure, and I was relaxed. And she asked the question, and I spit out an answer, right? And I said right afterwards, I said, "Where did that come from?" She said, "Don't worry about it." And there was a point where I had a lot of emotion associated with what was coming up. And I could feel myself almost going back into a beta state. I could feel my conscious mind and my cortisol stress hormones coming up. And I was conscious enough to understand that. And I said to her, I said, I need to wait a minute before I answer because I need to relax. I'm moving out of wherever I was. I don't see the scene anymore. And I think that is a very important point because, like I said, people think that they're going to be like, hey, stand on your head and, croak like a chicken. You're not going to do that because your brain's going to say, no.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting fight between my subconscious and my conscious. And the memories that came up, my conscious mind tried to say, oh, I kind of remember that. Let me try to interject this. And I had to stop it unconscious and think to myself, no, stick with whatever's coming out. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Like, let it go. And there is a skill there. And the second time I did it, my conscious mind tried to take over even more than the first time. And I don't know if that's common, but I had to keep stopping and, but it is so interesting. And I think so many people are scared of it. And I think the reason being is that perfectionism control. They feel like they're not going to have control. So we're here to tell you all, you fully have control. We think you should let it go because it will help you get through it. But if you do get really uncomfortable, you can stop. Your brain will stop you. You don't have to go there. How many sessions do you think do you feel like this is something someone should do like every month? Like, is this something we should do as just like almost like a cleansing to ourselves all the time?
That's a really great question. I'm not much of a prescriptive individual, but
Hmm.
I do feel like mindfulness tools and hypnosis go hand in hand. And
Hmm.
so for me personally, they are integral to my week, right? I'm
Hmm.
constantly in practice with a mindfulness practice and or a hypnosis practice to help me get into that relaxed state, to allow my nervous system to get comfortable with being very regulated.
Hmm.
And I use hypnosis a lot in that way to help me visualize and experience, um, outcomes I do desire to
Mhm.
to experience, and let myself feel like that's safe. Remind I'm in a safe place, I'm regulated. Because what would happen to me previously is I also grew up in a household that said the following, like, don't laugh too much because you'll cry twice as much. And just like
Oh,
they've experienced, right?
that's sad.
So sad. Um, but it's a very protective mechanism because they had experienced unfathomable levels of trauma and grief that they had
Mhm.
to curb their joy, because joy and abandon, like, that was quickly followed with significant trauma and unsafety. And so I grew up in a family that just didn't allow themselves to get a little too comfortable. It was just such a hyper vigilant
Mhm.
home.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I, in some ways, have to, well, not in some ways, in a lot of ways, have to use hypnosis to retrain my nervous system. And sometimes I'm going to a scene that is, I'm living this in my life right now.
Mm.
I actually let myself go into a room of my house or into an experience I already have, but I'm working through with my nervous system, like, can you stay regular? Can you notice how safe it is to be safe? Like,
Mhm.
I've got to use hypnosis to help my nervous system regulate in the scene that I
Yeah.
desire and that maybe I already have, but I'm not letting myself even fully have it because
Mhm.
I'm just one moment away from getting back to the pattern of hypervigilance. It was so taught to me.
Yeah. Do you have like, obviously people aren't going into full hypnosis and they need to work with someone like you to go through it, but like if someone's having one of those days where they're finding themselves in old patterns, is there something if they took 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, is there something they can do to regulate their nervous system easily to help them understand what that state starts to feel like so that they can start regulating?
Yeah. Some of the easiest practices that I use is just rolling your eyes
Mhm.
upward, looking as, just the beginning of when you're doing hypnosis. Most people do this type of regression where you're looking up into your eyebrows, right? And then you begin to count down from 100. You're going to see a chalkboard 100 and then wipe it up 99.
Mhm.
98, right? And just getting that instantly. And then when you count down, whether it's from 25 down to one or 100 down to one, whatever you've got the capacity for, and then just being able to hold your body or be with the sensations and like feel and give yourself an opportunity to recognize in this moment, I have spaciousness, I am safe.
Mhm.
I can breathe. I can allow my breath to move through me more and
Mhm.
more. Like those things can help you. That's a form of
Mhm.
hypnosis. You are helping yourself in that you are allowing relaxation to come upon you. That's what hypnosis is
That's all.
allowing that relaxation to come upon you. You are gifting that to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and just feeling whatever you feel and whatever comes up, acknowledging it and letting it move on. And I know often you'll start thinking about your to-do list and you have to kind of say, okay, I understand that you want to think about that, but let's just take a minute. You have to kind of redirect your mind a lot. But you're right, it's about just coming into that relaxed state. And another thing that's really cool, which obviously you understand, but many people don't, is that our eyes, when we move our eyes, they have a direct link to our nervous system. So when you look up like that, and you're breathing, which is pulling on the vagus nerve, and you're looking up, you're actually stimulating that calm part of your body. This is something that you can do. And you see kids do this too. Like you'll see kids innately, they'll start singing, right? Or humming to rattle the vagus nerve, or you'll see them start taking big breaths, or you'll see them kind of look up and whatever, like our bodies know what to do, but we fight it. So that was a great tip. I also, um, I had a point about creativity, but I forgot what it was. Oh, I think with us being so overstimulated, we've lost a lot of creativity.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about, I think I think we've lost our ability to create a lot because we're being told what everything is. Now we have video games that tell us how to control things and whatnot, where there's this part when you were talking about hypnosis and calming down and imagining a scene. We're having to use our imagination. We're having to What did the carpet feel like? What did it smell like? What was I wearing? Was it soft? Did I have a teddy bear? Do I remember how he smelled? Like when you start getting into your body like that and you start thinking about the sensations that you felt, it's accessing a part of your brain that we are being conditioned not to use. We're being told all day long how to do things and who should do it and why we should follow and what we should do. And we're not imagining anything anymore. Kids don't have imaginative play like they used to have imaginative play, right? I mean, my kids, I remember they had a playroom and we had all sorts of stuff. We had magnets and we had karaoke machines and we had, Legos and I mean, I had all sorts of different things to try to encourage them to touch and feel and build and change. But, they go to school and they're on a computer all day long. They're not even handwriting much anymore.
Ah,
It's sad, and I'm like, gosh, there's so much of that creativity that we're lacking. And one of the things when I was at my lowest that helped me start on this trajectory towards really honoring who I am in this process was I went back to dance because dance required me to be 100% in the moment. You can't think about your to-do list when you're learning a routine and you're listening and feeling the music. And a lot of people say now, they're like, oh, well, I'm getting the routine, but I look stupid doing it. And I'm like, this is the point where you have to feel the music. You have to
mhm,
feel the emotion. You
mhm.
have to just dive into it with complete abandon and not worry about did your arm hit exactly where it was supposed to go at exactly the right angle, or did you feel the emotion in the song that just made you make it different, right? And this is where that individuality comes
Yeah.
and it brings back that creativity. So I guess my point is this is an outlet that people can do to start to work on their imagination and their creativity again. Because I ask people, how do you get joy? What brings you joy? What do you like to do for fun? And so many people are like, I don't do anything for fun anymore.
No.
And it just breaks my heart because just by taking a few moments, like you're saying, looking up, breathing, imagining whatever memory comes to you, and instead of letting your mind wander from it, try to fill it in, build it in your computer mind. What did it look like? What did it feel like? What did it smell like? Who's in the room? When was the last time I was there? And being curious as to what pops up rather than running from what pops up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you see massive creative changes in people
Yeah.
that learn how to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of I think we've touched on it a little bit just in our communication before we met, and that is that I have this gold album. It takes you through these
Yeah.
seasons of change. It's not something that I create. It's come through me, right? It takes pages from Chinese medicine, from indigenous culture, right? About the seasons of healing and change and these spirals that we move through. And I think part of this perfectionism conversation has productivity really tied to it, and that we are constantly just in like the fruit time,
Hmm.
the season where we bear fruit, and we just need to do that. And we don't really take time for the other parts of healing or the other seasons that got us to fruit. And one of
Hmm.
those seasons is you fruit. Now there's a new beginning. Right now, there's like, what could you create that would be brand new, that
Hmm.
would be fresh? You need to give yourself space to be able to do that. And we don't often give ourselves that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so with hypnosis, it's fun to use different types of imagery tools or to connect them with that part of them that felt bliss, right? Or regressing
Hmm.
them somewhere or regressing them forward, right?
Hmm.
Let's go back to a space 1 year from now, right? Let's jump on a timeline, go year from now, and we are celebrating. We're celebrating, and these people I've asked them beforehand who would be there, right?
Hmm.
So those people are there. What are we celebrating?
Hmm.
And then they begin to feel, what are the colors that are there? What do you smell?
Hmm.
Right? Who else is there? What do you hear? It's like, oh, I hear a giggle in the background. I see a table of these foods. There's a lot of this purple color. Oh, what is? Oh, that's lavender. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I love lavender. And like so. Those are ways in which we can play and create and find out what it is, and then we can bring it back and learn from the scene. And it turns out I really want to be in, and somebody said, I want to be, and it was somewhere in a different part of the US that
Mhm.
they had visited when they were a kid. And they're like,
Mm.
I really long to go and spend some time out at that cabin. And so one of the goals was like talking about how do we make ourselves, that's for you a goal that would be of fulfillment. Not at
Yeah.
all what we thought it was, not a business. It ended up being how is the business going to facilitate this goal of celebration where 1 year from now,
Mhm.
you've invited some family members, you're all in this area in the forest, you've got a beautiful display, you've got the lemonade with the lavender in it, and
Mhm.
the children, you know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, that became our goal. It was totally not
Yeah.
what they had in their mind about the business goal and the
Mhm.
number they were supposed to get. It was like, what is that actual, what do they want that money for? Oh, I want it for this opportunity, this experience of celebration. Does that make sense?
I love it. And I think it's so relevant because we do set these goals that, and we think we're being productive and we think it's great to set, oh, we're going to make X amount of money or we're going to make this, when it's really, there's an emotional component there of something you're trying to accomplish. And we see this all the time because we see very successful people from the outside. They've made tons of money. They have these big careers. Maybe they're really well known and they take their own life.
Yes.
They're not happy.
Yeah.
Right. And from the outside, you're like, I don't get it, man. They were billionaires. They could do whatever they wanted with their life and they're not happy. No, because it's not about that. It's about, are you fulfilling your soul's mission to do what it wants to do? What do you visualize? What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? And a lot of the times that's really just reconnecting in with, what you can't logically see right now.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. So it's called the Gold Album, you said, right?
Yeah.
And they can learn about this on your website, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What can you state? Where can they find you?
Yeah, just my website of drnatasha.net, and there's different offerings there. There's some free hypnosis recordings, and I offer those just so people can get a taste, right? And it's not somebody that's taking them through hypnosis. They know that it's all hypnosis, self-hypnosis. There's low stakes, right, of concern. They can stop the recording at any time if they don't like it, those types of things. And then, yeah, there's information about different offerings and the Gold Album itself and just how it's bridging clinical practice pieces with the seasonal alignment and, reverence to indigenous medicine and spiritual practices and values-based embodiment work, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, again, about the spiral. It's not linear.
Mhm.
It's not fixing.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's just moving through with just with the rhythms of nature. And
Yeah.
I think that's where really well, we're both naturopaths. It's just like,
Yep.
that's where probably are going to be a strong value for us, the wisdom that nature has and how much it teaches us again and again, right? How
Yeah.
there's just infinite creativity, even in just like one varietal of a flower and all the ways in which it could bloom. It's just like,
It's it's unbelievable.
yeah.
So as a recovering perfectionist, as somebody that's constantly working on this,
Yeah.
what's next for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely say that it is that process of that it is a recovery process. Um, and that I spiral to it again and again,
Mhm.
right? I still spiral to these experiences where I have done too much. I am experiencing a level of burnout. And like my body will tell me so more and more
Mhm.
now that I'm preparing menopause. This thing definitely changing
Yeah.
life. And you're like, oh, wow. That word isn't the same. Just like, oh gosh, the things I strived myself on, my goodness, that changed. That just like life and physiology humbling me. But um,
My kids always make fun of me when I say a word wrong.
oh,
They
really?
just they
Oh,
just have to
forgetting.
rub it in and I'm like, dude, wait. Like you're a guy, but you just wait. I know this is going to happen to you too. It just means you're driving me crazy and I'm overstimulated and I can't think of the word and you need to leave me alone and I want to go in my own room now. I know. But you're right,
Yeah.
listening to that cue though,
Yeah.
from your body rather than getting mad at it and
Yeah.
saying, okay, this is a sign that there's too many things jumbled around in my brain, so I need to chill out now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like burnout, or when these slight touches, right? I don't go fully deep into the realms that I used to because I catch it early enough now. But when I'm really experiencing it, I used to really believe, I used to be tethered to this experience of failure around it. Like,
Yeah.
how I've done so much work.
I've done everything right.
Right.
Why can't I
Well,
get it?
he's like, hello, you got here because you've been having that conversation. Pause. Right. So when I pause and I allow gentleness and curiosity, like, how did we get here? Let's look backward. Right. And then also this conversation of the gap and the gain, right? I've had a tendency, I love growth. I love personal development. I love self-actualization. I mean, all of that is like, oh, I just get so excited. And I
Yes.
spent a lot of time, or have spent a lot of time in this, the gap from where I am to where I need to be, right? From that book by Hardy and
Yep.
Sullivan. And what about, I haven't yet spent enough time looking backward at how far I've come, right? And so these spirals are an opportunity for me to pause and say, oh, I haven't spent enough time in the season of integration, of slowing down, of being with myself, and to come back to, have I been operating out of alignment here? Have I been doing things for doing things? And how do we return back to the things that are super nourishing and fulfilling to me? So
Yeah.
I
It's
think
about being curious. I think we have
yeah,
to go into it with curiosity.
yeah,
Why do I feel this way? Can I figure that out? Instead of getting mad, oh, why do I feel this way? It's like, wait, why do I feel this way? It's just a different way to say it, right? I think that's a great way to wrap it up, because I think so many times we get so bogged down with putting ourselves down for not being at the goal, when we do need to look back at where we were, because the goalpost always moves. So what was your goal 3 years ago? You've probably far past, right? But you didn't take the time to recognize it, to honor it, to add it to the list, of the accomplishments that you've made. So I think that's a great reminder to everyone out there that where you are, oh, I have a sign on my wall, and it says, today you are exactly where you are supposed to be. What happens tomorrow is up to you.
Aw.
And the reason I keep that there is because I do the same thing. I think, oh, I haven't hit where I'm supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. And you have to honor where you are right now and then make the next logical step to what's next. Not necessarily what's this huge moonshot, but like, what's the next step from where you just were? And what's one action that you can take to get there, and then celebrate it? For gosh sakes, people, celebrate. It's a reason to have a party.
Yeah, yeah. And to do
Right?
it with community, I think it's just that we're not meant to do that process alone. To
Right.
dismantle perfectionism requires community. It
It requires
requires
vulnerability.
yeah, we've got to allow our loved ones to be reminding us, and for us to remind that this is something that we are likely to get tethered to, and we can work together to untether, right? And
So
to
you can do,
remind each other of how
oh,
far
yeah,
we've come. Yeah.
yeah. It is. It's a community. And I do feel like a lot of the times we're, like I said, we're doing it on our own, and we have to, it takes a village. But in order for the village to help you, you have to ask.
Let him in.
You actually have to say, I need help, or I need support with this, or this is my goal. I need you to help me do this. Would you be willing to come into this with me? Could we do it together? I think asking for help is so important. So all of you out there listening, the other beautiful recovering perfectionists out there, this is doable. Celebrate your wins, give yourself some grace, ask for help and support, reach out, fill your community full of people that are doing the same thing. Follow Dr. Natasha, watch these shows, do whatever you got to do to realize that you are not alone out there, that we are all going through, especially as perimenopausal women. Let's like just
Yeah.
like, woo, you know?
Yeah.
We're all in it together. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you too. This is such a fun conversation. And yeah.
It was a lovely conversation, and I hope you will absolutely keep in touch.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.